You know that sound, that snap in somebody's voice when they've had enough. The sharp, "Stop that," or "What were you thinking?" We've all heard it. Some of us have lived it. But here's the thing, yelling at people doesn't make them listen. It makes most of them scared. And it doesn't earn respect, it erodes it. It teaches that the loudest voice wins. And the wildest part, most of us don't even think of it as wrong. We think of it as discipline. We call it tough love. We call it what kids need. But yelling isn't guidance, it's dysregulation disguised as authority. Today on DTalk, we're unpacking how adults' emotional control, or lack thereof, shapes a child's entire sense of self. Because if respect is something that we expect from children, it damn well better be something that we're modeling first. Hello, you stunning woman on the go. Welcome back to DTalk, your safe space to explore your creativity, connection, cringe, and critical thinking. And today we are talking about something that sounds simple but shapes entire generations: how adults talk to kids. More specifically, we're tackling the myth that yelling builds respect or character, because it doesn't. It builds fear, resentment, and disconnection. So grab your emotional support beverage, unclench your jaw, and let's talk about why it's time to start yelling at kids. And let's talk about why we need to stop yelling at kids and actually just start listening to them like they're human beings. I know, go figure. Let's get into it. Detox starts now. Children don't just listen to adults, they absorb them. From infancy, a child's nervous system learns regulation by mirroring the emotional states of caregivers and teachers. Long before language develops, safety is communicated through tone, touch, and facial expression. Neuroscience shows that a child's developing brain is wired to synchronize with the emotional cues of the adults around them through a process known as emotional co-regulation. I'm choking on glitter. When an adult speaks calmly, maintains gentle eye contact, or offers physical reassurance, the child's stress response decreases, and oxytocin, the hormone linked to bonding and safety, is released. Conversely, when adults respond with anger or unpredictability, children internalize that emotional volatility as a template for how relationships work. In this way, almost every interaction becomes a mirror. A child learns not only how to manage conflict, but what conflict feels like in their body. Psychologist Alan Shore describes this as right brain to right brain communication, a nonverbal exchange in which emotional regulation is transferred between caregiver and child. This is why yelling or harsh reactions don't just frighten children in the moment, they alter the child's ability to return to that baseline level of calm. Over time, this repeated stress response can shape the neural pathways related to threat detection and emotional control. The body literally learns to anticipate dysregulation. The body keeps the score. This biological mirroring extends much farther than childhood. In classrooms, for example, teachers who remain composed during moments of chaos model emotional steadiness, teaching students that intensity can be met with calm rather than escalation. Conversely, when educators meet stress with shouting, they unintentionally teach power equals volume and control requires domination. The result is that children's regulatory patterns mirror not the rules they're told, but the emotions they witness. You can't teach regulation from a dysregulated state. The mirror effect also explains why positive physical and emotional presence matters so much. Gentle touch, eye contact, and a steady tone of voice all activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's built-in coping mechanism. When adults connect with children through these channels, they're literally shaping the child's biology towards safety and trust. This is the foundation of emotional intelligence, knowing how to sense and respond to feelings without being overtaken by them. And children learn this skill by observing it in real time. Ultimately, the mirror effect is a quiet but powerful truth. Kids become fluent in whatever emotional language surrounds them. If that language is grounded, compassionate, and consistent, they learn to trust both themselves and others. If it's chaotic, volatile, or dismissive, they learn that connection is unsafe. So much of emotional development isn't about what we say to kids, it's about what their nervous system learns from ours. Before children can regulate themselves, they need to borrow our calm. Can you remember a teacher or a caregiver whose tone or presence made you feel safe even when things were chaotic? That probably influenced the way that you were willing to take on new things and take risks in that safe environment. And are there moments now where you notice yourself unconsciously reacting like an adult that you grew up around? Do you want to keep that pattern or do you want to rewrite it? We're going to end this chapter with an invitation for you to reflect on the following sentence. If your nervous system is mirroring the adults around you, what does it say about the emotional climate we are creating for the next generation? In the intricate dance of human development, motivation serves as the rhythm that guides our actions, decisions, and our growth. And at the heart of this rhythm lies self-determination theory, a framework developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. Self-determination theory argues that human motivation is most robust when three fundamental psychological needs are satisfied, and they are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. These needs are not just mere luxuries, but essential nutrients for the psyche, fostering an environment where intrinsic motivation can flourish. The first of these three, autonomy, is the sense of volition and choices in somebody's actions. When individuals perceive their actions as self-endorsed, they are more likely to engage deeply and persistently in those activities. In contrast, when behaviors are externally controlled or coerced, intrinsic motivation wanes, and compliance becomes the default response. Studies have found that autonomous parental support, which is characterized by acknowledging children's perspectives and providing rationales for requests, is positively associated with children's internalization of values and self-regulation. Conversely, controlling parenting practices, such as pressuring children to conform without an explanation, can undermine autonomy and hinder motivation. The next one is competence, and competence refers to the feeling of being effective in one's activities and experiencing opportunities to exercise and express one's capacities. This need is satisfied when people are engaging in tasks that aren't too easy and aren't too hard. The Goldilocks factor, if you will. In educational settings, when teachers provide tasks that are appropriately challenging or offer constructive feedback, students' sense of competence is enhanced, leading to increased intrinsic motivation. However, when these tasks are too easy or too difficult, or when feedback is absent or negative, students may feel ineffective, leading to disengagement and decreased motivation. The last one is relatedness. Relatedness involves feeling connected to others and experiencing a sense of belonging and safe attachment. This need is satisfied through warm, supportive relationships that provide a foundation for motivation. And in the context of teaching and parenting, when adults demonstrate care, empathy, and understanding, children and students are more likely to feel valued and supported. And this sense of relatedness fosters intrinsic motivation because people are more inclined to engage in activities that align with their values and interests when they feel connected to those guiding them. So while external rewards can sometimes enhance motivation, their impact depends on the context of the individual's perception of the reward. So I want to talk about the over-justification effect. And this occurs when external rewards decrease internal motivation for an activity that an individual already finds inherently enjoyable. And there's a seminal study demonstrating this effect. Preschool children who who were rewarded for drawing, a task that they normally enjoy, showed less interest in drawing afterward comparing to those children who were not rewarded. So this decline in intrinsic motivation occurred because the external reward stifled the children's perception of the activity from being intrinsically enjoyable to being externally driven. So the over-justification effect has significant implications to what we're talking about here. When adults use rewards to control behavior, they risk undermining children's intrinsic motivation, leading to compliance rather than genuine engagement. So to foster lasting motivation, it is crucial to support autonomy and provide meaningful feedback rather than relying solely on external rewards, especially if the external reward is kindness. Emotional safety is the foundational pillar of learning and development. When children or students feel threatened, anxious, or unsafe, their brains respond in ways that prioritize survival over growth. Neuroscience shows that the amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection system, becomes hyperactive under conditions of fear or stress. And while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for higher order thinking, reasoning, and self-regulation, loses capacity to function optimally. This is why fear-based authority, whether through harsh discipline, yelling, or punitive educational practices, can inhibit curiosity, suppress questions, and fundamentally alter how children perceive learning environments at large. The effects of fear extend beyond immediate stress. Chronic exposure to fear and disrespect can lead to heightened cortisol levels, which interfere with memory consolidation, executive functioning, and emotional regulation. In classroom settings, students who consistently experience authoritarian teaching or punitive dissonance often associate learning with danger or judgment. Instead of engaging with material out of curiosity, they focus on avoiding mistakes, seeking approval, or evading negative consequences. This is the neurological and psychological cost of fear-based authority. Compliance replaces exploration, silence replaces dialogue, and survival instincts overshadow intrinsic motivation. Fear is also relational. Children and students are constantly reading the emotional states of the adults around them. A teacher or a parent who communicates through anger, intimidation, or criticism signals that vulnerability is unsafe. And this aligns with research on emotional contagion, which shows that stress and fear in adults can be transmitted to children, reshaping their emotional landscape and behavior. In other words, fear does not exist in isolation. It spreads. And when adults operate from a place of anxiety or aggression, children often internalize these same patterns, learning to navigate the world through vigilance, avoidance, or mimicry of that controlling behavior. Safety and respect are also deeply intertwined with cognitive and social development. The safe, stimulating, and nurturing environment model, which was developed by the Center on the Developing Child from the Harvard University, emphasizes that children require constant, predictable, and supportive interactions to develop secure attachments, self-regulation, and executive functioning skills. When respect is absent and fear dominates, children's attention is consumed by threat detection, leaving limited mental bandwidth for learning, problem solving, or just being creative. And over time, this chronic stress reshapes the neural pathways, favoring rapid threat responses over reflective thinking. And this is a neurological adaptation to survive rather than thrive. Children who experience fear-driven interactions may struggle to trust peers or adults. They may avoid participation or suppress emotional expression. They are more likely to adopt defensive or aggressive communication styles, anticipating judgment or punishment rather than collaboration. Conversely, environments that are rooted in respect, empathy, and emotional attunement support children in engaging fully with learning and social exploration. By modeling calm, regulated, and responsive interactions, adults provide a blueprint for emotional safety, encouraging curiosity and resilience. It's important to note that emotional safety doesn't equate to permissiveness or the absence of boundaries. Children thrive when they encounter structured guidance delivered with respect and predictability, not coercion or intimidation. Setting clear expectations while honoring autonomy and providing empathetic feedback fosters both competence and relatedness, linking back to self-determination theory, and allows children to experience this mastery without fear of consequences. Fear-based authority can also undermine intrinsic motivation by activating the avoidance mindset. When children anticipate negative consequences for mistakes and dissent, they prioritize safety over expression, and this leads to reduced engagement, stunted creativity, or diminished problem-solving skills. And over time, this creates a cycle where compliance is rewarded and curiosity is punished. And this embeds the association between learning and a threat into the child's neural and psychological infrastructure. On the other hand, fostering safety, validation, and respect helps children feel confident in making mistakes, asking questions, and asserting their perspectives. And these are all essential for elements of deep and sustained learning. Ultimately, emotional safety is both a moral and pedagogical imperative. Respectful, predictable, and empathetic interactions provide the scaffolding for curiosity, engagement, and self-regulation. Adults who cultivate emotional safety are not merely preventing harm, they are actively creating conditions for children to explore, to grow, and to thrive. Fear may secure short-term compliance, but respect, empathy, and emotional attunement build the enduring foundation for motivation, resilience, and meaningful learning. Disrespect is contagious, and the way that children experience interactions with adults don't stop in the immediate moment. It ripples outward, shaping how they treat peers, authority figures, and eventually their own partners and children. Research in developmental psychology shows that children are keen observers and imitators of social behavior. This is through a process called social learning, described by Albert Bandura. Children internalize not just the rules and consequences that they are told about, but also by the tone, regulation, and dynamics that are demonstrated by the adults. When a child is repeatedly exposed to yelling, criticism, or dismissive communication, these patterns become encoded as normative behaviors, ready to be replicated in other contexts. And this ripple effect is exceedingly potent in peer interactions. A child who is frequently scolded or belittled may develop a habit of speaking to peers in the same harsh tone, often without conscious awareness. And over time, this can create cycles of conflict and mistrust in classrooms or home environments. Studies on peer aggression and bullying demonstrate that children who experience frequent adult disrespect are more likely to engage in relational aggression with classmates, not because they are inherently cruel, but because they have internalized a template for interaction that associates influence with intimidation. The behavior is adaptive in context. So if yelling or criticism secures attention or compliance, the child learns to use it, but maladaptive in broader social and educational settings. And these dynamics extend into long-term social emotional development. Chronic exposure to disrespect during the formative years can shape attachment styles, interpersonal expectations, and conflict resolution strategies well into adolescence. Children who grow up in environments where communication is often disrespectful may approach friendships, romantic relationships, and work environments with heightened defensiveness, mistrust, or aggression. Alternatively, environments where adults model respectful negotiation, accountability, and calm conflict resolution equip children with pro-social tools for navigating relationships effectively. Neurologically, this ripple effect is underpinned by the same mechanisms that we talked about before, and repeated experiences of disrespect or threat activate these same stress pathways, reinforcing the circuits associated with vigilance, fight or flight responses, and reactive aggression. And over time, these adaptations make it easier for children to default to these behaviors in social interactions, especially when they are under stress. Meanwhile, the children who experience consistent respect, validation, and calm modeling develop the neural flexibility to approach conflicts thoughtfully, self-regulate, and respond with empathy, essentially learning how to pass along respect rather than reactivity. This ripple effect also affects educational outcomes. Research on classroom climate demonstrates that peer-to-peer interactions significantly influence engagement, participation, and academic performance. When disrespectful patterns proliferate, they can create a toxic environment where students are reluctant to share ideas, ask questions, or collaborate. Teachers' modeling of respectful communication, however, has a multiplying effect. Each interaction can cascade through peer networks, reinforcing pro-social norms and emotional regulation. In this sense, every adult interaction is not just a moment with one child, it's a potential catalyst for a wider culture of either conflict or cooperation. Breaking cycles of disrespect requires intentional modeling and repair. Adults cannot assume that children will automatically unlearn patterns of harsh communication simply because that behavior is discouraged. Interventions that combine clear boundaries with empathetic explanation, teaching children not just what to do, but how to do it, have been shown to reduce this aggressive behavior and promote pro-social skills. The key is consistency. Children must repeatedly witness and experience respectful problem solving to replace previously encoded patterns of reactivity. Importantly, repair doesn't mean perfection. Adults will make mistakes. Children will sometimes respond defensively. What matters is how these moments are handled. Modeling accountability, calm correction, and apology demonstrates that respect is not conditional, and that errors are opportunities for learning rather than threats. Over time, this modeling helps children internalize a relational toolkit, which they then replicate in peer interactions and beyond, perpetuating cycles of empathy, regulation, and curiosity versus fear and compliance. Ultimately, the ripple effect reminds us that teaching respect is not just about managing immediate behavior. It's about socializing a culture. Each adult interaction, each corrective moment, each instance of calm and thoughtful modeling reverberates outward, shaping the social and emotional landscape of these children's worlds. Respectful adults lay the foundation for children to engage, to empathize, and to thrive across contexts, while disrespect, intentional or inadvertent, can quietly seed conflict, mistrust, and defensive reactivity for years to come. After exploring how children mirror adult behavior, how autonomy and motivation are shaped by control, how fear and disrespect shrink curiosity, and how patterns of disrespect ripple outward, the question becomes, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we interrupt cycles that, if left unchecked, perpetuate fear, reactivity, and disengagement? The answer lies not in perfection, but in repair. Repair is the deliberate act of modeling accountability, empathy, and calm communication, showing children that relationships can recover, that mistakes are opportunities to learn, and that emotional regulation is not only possible, but expected. Repair begins with adults noticing their own states. We cannot teach regulation from a dysregulated place. Neurobiologically, children are exquisitely attuned to adults. So when a caregiver or a teacher is reactive, children internalize that stress, which activates the same fight or flight circuits we discussed earlier. Conversely, when adults model calm, measured responses. Even in moments of conflict, children receive a live demonstration of emotional regulation. This is not about pretending everything is fine or suppressing genuine feelings. It's about navigating emotions skillfully and transparently, showing children that distress can be tolerated, expressed safely, and resolved constructively. Repair also requires the acknowledgement of harm. When children are disrespected, controlled, or fearful, their experiences are real and impactful. So minimizing, dismissing, or rationalizing these experiences only reinforces the patterns that we are aiming to disrupt. Instead, adults have to articulate understanding and validation. I see that my tone upset you, and I want to do better. Research on restorative practices in schools highlights that when authority figures actively repair relational ruptures, children develop stronger trust, social emotional skills, and intrinsic motivation. Repair signals that relationships are more important than control, and that accountability is a tool for growth rather than punishment. Importantly, repair is relationally contagious. Each act of acknowledgement, apology, or calm correction not only recalibrates the immediate interaction, it also seeds new patterns for future relationships. Children learn that mistakes are not catastrophic, that curiosity can exist alongside boundaries, and that empathy and respect are viable modes of interaction. And over time, these small, consistent demonstrations accumulate, counteracting the ripple effect of past disrespect and modeling an alternative way of engaging with the world. The work of repair is also inherently hopeful. It reframes childhood adversity and relational missteps not as a fixed destiny, but as a malleable experience. Neuroscience tells us that the brain remains plastic well into adolescence and adulthood, and when adults intervene with consistent, empathetic modeling, they are literally shaping the neural architecture of children's social and emotional capacities. Each moment of repair, whether it's explaining a boundary calmly, correcting a mistake with empathy, or simply listening without judgment, adds a layer of resilience, flexibility, and trust. Repair is also not quick or linear. Adults will slip. Children will respond with confusion or defensiveness, and patterns may temporarily intensify before improving. The goal is not flawless performance, but consistent modeling, reflection, and recalibration. The objective is to cultivate minds that are regulated, flexible, and relationally aware. We are creating environments where children are not merely compliant, but capable of understanding themselves and others, engaging with curiosity, and navigating the social world with empathy and confidence. In practice, this means approaching every interaction as an opportunity to repair and model, not simply to correct or control. It means embracing the discomfort of accountability, holding space for emotion without judgment, and recognizing that each moment carries a ripple potential. One calm, empathetic adult can catalyze change in countless relationships. Repair is cumulative. Repair is deliberate. Repair is revolutionary. So, to the educators, parents, and caregivers listening, you are not just influencing individual children. You are shaping cultures of interaction, learning, and growth. Your tone, your curiosity, your willingness to model accountability, these are the tools that can interrupt cycles of fear and disrespect, foster motivation, and cultivate emotionally intelligent, resilient humans. We cannot erase the past, nor can we always prevent new mistakes, but through intentional repair, through consistently modeling calm, empathy, and respect, we can transform the future. If children learn that they are seen, that they are valued, and that relationships can heal, in that space of repair, learning and growth and human flourishing are not just possible, they are inevitable. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this episode of DTalk. I really hope you enjoyed it. The reason that I went through with this episode is because I've been spending a little bit more time in classrooms than I have been in the last handful of years. And for the love of God, I am tired of hearing people yell at kids. So the next time that you hear somebody yelling at a child, hell, yelling at anybody, send them this episode because they might just need to hear it. And you might have noticed I was modeling calm, collected behavior the whole time because I got to practice what I preach. But yeah, thanks for getting to the end. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know what you think in the comments down there, and subscribe to this channel if you want to catch my future episodes. I've been gone from DTalk for a while because I had a really busy summer, but I'm back here for the rest of 2025, and I'm excited for the next ones to come. And you know what, girly wigs? I think I'm going to leave it on the note of some people use the word respect to mean treating somebody like a person. And some people use the word respect to mean treating somebody like an authority. So when someone who is used to being treated like an authority says, if you don't respect me, I won't respect you. But what that really means is if you don't treat me like an authority, I won't treat you like a person. Goodbye.